So I'll start over. So when we look at this, hopefully it's recorded. All right. So when we when we go to did Christ destroy the law of Moses, we're dealing with this. Like we said, we're going to go to the first part. I don't know why that's showing. Right. And we go to verse 17. Think that I am not come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. All right. My objective is not to destroy the law or the prophets. So he's even making it wider than what we just think with Moses' law. He's actually including the prophets as well. So hypothetically, you can say from Genesis, I don't want to say even to Malachi, but also the Apocrypha too. So that kind of gambit of time, he's saying, I'm not coming to destroy that stuff. All right. He already gave us a starting point of what he's doing. All right. I'm not coming to destroy it. My only mission is to fulfill things. Okay. Now let's go to 1 Peter. All right. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 2. 1 Peter chapter 2. And as we go to different ones, I'll try to get little scriptures to even bring certain things out. But we're going to start 1 Peter chapter 2, and we're going to jump down to verse 21. 1 Peter chapter 2, and this is verse 21. Right? It reads, "For even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow his steps." And I wanted to read that part because Peter, chief apostle, is saying Christ suffered and he left us an example. All right. That means something to follow. And he's saying what? That we should follow who? His steps. So what Christ did, we should mimic Christ. We never got that to mimic any of the other people. You mimic Christ. Even Paul says, follow me as I follow what? As I mimic Christ, you mimic me. All right. So Christ is that role model, that perfect role model or example for us. Okay. So he's saying in 21, leaving us an example that ye should follow his footsteps. Verse 22, because it's what? You see that punctuation there, right? So who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. Okay, so this is very important. Peter was with him. He's teaching Peter. This is one of the disciples, right? His followers. He's saying Christ did not sin. He didn't even say he did a little bit. He said he did no sin. So this is important because sometimes we're reading, and I'm speaking to myself, sometimes we're reading, some things can appear a certain way. But this is why the scriptures have certain things. So if I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, this seems like Christ, like he's sinning, right? Sin is the transgression of the law, according to I John, right? So he did no sin. So that's what we need to know. He already told you he did no sin. Neither also he didn't have guile found in his mouth. So he wasn't even deceitful with his words. He wasn't acting like he's breaking it and then, doing somebody else. That would be guile, right? So Christ wasn't sinning. He wasn't breaking the law. And he wasn't also having guile in his mouth. That's very important. Okay. All right. So let's go to the first example. This will be John chapter 8. John chapter 8. And then I'll let people, we can start choosing ones. After class, we'll choose, maybe some examples that we want to address in order, okay? But the first one is John chapter 8. John chapter 8, okay? I'm going to read it through, okay? I'm going to read it through, and then we'll take our time a little bit with this, all right? We're going to read it through, and then we'll take our time and dissect what's happening. John chapter 8, we'll start at verse 1. Jesus went unto the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple. And all the people came unto him and sat down and taught them. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Verse 9, and they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. When Jesus had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thy accusers? Have no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Okay. So this passage is going to be the first one we will start off with this series. All right. Did he destroy the law? And a lot of people go here saying Christ destroyed the law. All right. He is showing that you don't need to worry about Moses' law, and he done made his law about him having mercy and things like that. So a lot of things get put into it, and I can understand how some people will see it like that if you don't have prior knowledge of certain things. Okay. That's why we talk about reading and understand the law and the prophets is very important to be able to rightly divide the word of God. Okay. So we'll start at verse 1 and let's walk it down. Jesus went to the Mount of Olives, nothing there. Early in the morning, he came again into the temple, all right? And all the people came unto him, and he sat down and he taught them. So he's teaching them, right? That's what he would do. Verse 3. So he's minding his business, doing his thing, teaching. The point to that. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery, and when they had set her in the midst, they say unto him. So there's something important in this passage. What is important in verse 3? Let's establish some facts. What is something that's very important in verse 3? The writer's giving us something that we need to pay attention to. Anybody know? All right. That's no problem. Good. So, go ahead. What you got, sis?
They brought the woman, but where's the man?
All right, you done gave the whole mystery. Yes, very important part, and we're going to see why that is important, beloved, because that's very important, and people forget all about that. And they just say you saying we're the man, but it's very important because what they say, scribes and the Pharisees. First of all, these people that know better, know the law. Okay, so that's one aspect. Who is in this story? Not this story, this situation. So we got scribes and Pharisees. Pharisees are the strictest set of the law, so they know the law. Okay. So they brought to him a woman taken in adultery. The point, taken in adultery. Okay. She was taken in, well, that's going to go to verse 4. All right. So she was taken in adultery. We've seen her. She's not innocent. She was taken in adultery. Okay. And this is why we got this woman, and they set her right before Christ. All right. They say unto him, Master, all right, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. They caught her red-handed in the act. But like the sister brought out, if you caught her in the act, she ain't doing this act by herself. She's doing it with what? somebody else. Where's the other party? Okay. So that is the big thing. Okay. We're going to see why, but that is huge. You only got one person and didn't get the other. Okay. And then look what they said in verse 5. And Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? Okay. And this is why it's very important. Don't just let somebody say something, understand where they're saying and go to what they're saying. Because they're giving, I don't want to say a half truth, right? Because the half truth is a full lie. But they're giving some things that's somewhat true, but they're giving partial. You can't do righteousness partially. But this is what they're trying to actually put out. Okay. So we're gonna come back here, right? But we want to understand the laws because the sister brought out a great point. So let's hold it here and go to Leviticus chapter 20. We'll go to Leviticus chapter 20. And we're going to go to verse 10. Leviticus chapter 20, and we're going to go to verse 10. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery and his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. All right. So you caught the man in committing adultery, right, with another man's wife. That's why it's not saying for it's called adultery. All right. It promises somebody, even that commits adultery and his neighbor's wife, both parties. Listen what the law say. Both parties supposed to be put to death. They're coming and saying, we found her in the very act. Moses saying, you should kill her. No, that's not what the law of Moses was saying. Okay. And I'm saying law of Moses so we can understand it, but that's not what God's law is. Just getting the one party. It's getting both parties because both parties are guilty. Okay. So we'll start from there. We'll go to Deuteronomy chapter 22. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 22. And we'll jump down to verse 22. Deuteronomy 22, and we go verse 22. And there's different situations where you handle different things as well. I'm just going to what's prevalent for this example, okay? All right. So Deuteronomy chapter 22, and we'll go to verse 22, all right? If a man be found lying with a woman married to an husband, and they shall both of them die, both the man that lay with the woman and the woman, so shall thou put away evil from Israel. All right. So once again, we got some of the Leviticus talking about both parties. Now we got Deuteronomy, which is referred to as the second law, right? That is what? Telling you the same thing. You got to kill both parties. Because the reason why the Most High is doing this, when you're killing one adulteress, you still have what? Another adulteress free. And they ain't going to be just going doing some other stuff. That's not going to remove, that's put away evil from Israel. That's not removing evil. You just took out one party. No, you take them both out. Okay. So that's the law of Moses. Grab both parties, you put them to death. Okay. Now let's go back to John chapter 8. With that understanding, let's look. And why I'm saying that is because they know that. There's not people nowadays that don't know the law. The Pharisees and the scribes know you're supposed to bring both parties. They're trying to catch them up. Because if he would have just started stoning one and just, oh yeah, it would have been a problem because they didn't observe Moses' law. All right. They're trying to trap him. So we're going back to verse 4. They say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. So they even told on themselves with that. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? All right. You do stone them, but you only have one person. All right. verse 6. This they said, listen, tempting him. They probably already knew this is not how it's supposed to go, but we're trying to tempt them. We already have a certain heart where we're not coming into it honestly. They're not really trying to get righteousness from the law. They have a certain agenda. They're tempting him. Okay. So read again. And they said, tempting him that they might have to accuse him. Beloved, accuse him of what? If you know our culture, if you trying to make somebody, well, even not even our culture, any culture, right? You're trying to accuse them, you're trying to make them guilty of something. The only thing they're trying to grab Christ in is what? The law. If we can catch him in sin, we can now say, this is a false prophet. You don't got to listen to him. That's all they're trying to do. Stop following him. So they're doing this whole thing so they might have a right to say, this man is guilty. This man's not a man of God. All right. All right. They said, tempting him that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard them not. Okay. So he's ignoring them because he already know what manner of spirit they come in. He already know they know better. You know, you're supposed to bring both parties. So why are you bringing me this mess? Okay. But he's ignoring it. Let's see. Verse 7. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. All right. He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And people say, see, look what he said. I want us to look at what he said. Is he telling them to break the law or what he say? He's saying, if you don't got no sin, meaning if you're not doing things contrary to the law, he said what? Let him first cast a stone at her. He's actually telling you, yes, you have the right to cast a stone at her, but what's the prerequisite? Make sure you have no sin among you. Why is he saying that, beloved? Because he knows they got sin among them because they're not exercising this law correctly. That's part of the law. You can't do it incorrectly. You trying to bring righteousness through unrighteousness. That's what people do. They try to bring righteousness through try to observe the law by breaking the law. That don't make sense. So that's why he's setting them up. Yeah, the law do say cast the first stone, but make sure you're without sin. That's it. He didn't say no. We're not doing the law of Moses no more. She's fine. He didn't do that. His first response is throw the stone at her if you don't have sin. Okay. Let's hold this. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 17 and 7. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 17 and verse 7. All right. I'm going to start at verse 6 just so we can see. Matter of fact, let me see how far I want to go. This is not part of verse 7 is kind of the point, but I just want to go to verse 5 just to show you some of the things what he's doing. This is Deuteronomy 17. I'm starting at verse 5. Then shalt thou bring forth that man or that woman which have committed that wicked thing unto thy gates, even that man or that woman, and shall stone them with stones till they die. So this is definitely when they're dealing with idolatry and things of that nature. You catch them up, you have the right to kill them. Okay, that was our law. You try to do these things, you try to serve this other God, all that, you can bring them up, the guilty of the law, you stone them. Okay, and the point of this is to rid evil from the camp. All right, ridding that evil from the camp. Verse 6. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses, and Christ quote this actually another spot, shall he that is worthy of death be put to death. So you need 2 or 3 witnesses, but at the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death. Okay, so this is fair because somebody can just hate you, right? So they'll just make up a lie. It's like, well, we got a witness, so I guess it's true. No, he said, nah, you have to have somebody else that verify the same thing. Okay, this is why when they was bringing the false witnesses to Christ, they didn't just use 1. Even though they brought false witnesses, which was wicked, right? They at least they try to make it beautiful and at least grab 2 witnesses so they can be, covered by the law. But once again, they're using it wrong. All right. So you need 2 or 3 witnesses for it to be established. They had more than one person there. Okay, so they got that part covered. All right. Verse 7, the hands of the witnesses shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hands of all the people, so shall thou put away evil from among you. So how it will go, the witnesses, they will be the first ones to throw that stone if it was killing through stoning. Okay, so the hands of the witness shall be first upon him that die, and then everybody else follow through. All right, because really, why you're first? Because you witness it, and it's a testimony to you. You know the judgment. All right, you caught somebody acting, you stone them, you know better. So when they come back around, you better make sure you already know the punishment. All right, so this is another aspect. So we're going to go back, all right, to John chapter 7. I'm going to show both sides. So they had more than one witness. They said, we caught her in the act. Okay, so they had that part of the law covered. Even though it don't matter because they only brought the one, they still had that part covered. Okay, so he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. Okay, and again, he stooped down and rolled on the ground. So he gave him a judgment. All right, you don't have no sin, right? You not being guilty of the law. The law don't have nothing on you. You're good. And he's not saying that just hypothetically. He knows that they're not doing the law correctly. All right, and because of that, they have sin on them. Okay, not just thou shalt not. You have to carry out these things correctly, or you have sin among you. Okay. Verse 9, and they which heard it, listen to this, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one. Hold it. So when he said he that's about sin cast the first stone, they could have stoned her, but they knew. See, they knew that they were guilty of the law because they know the law. And if they would have stoned her, the people that knew something, wait up, y'all stoned the one part. You say you caught her in the dark. They knew that, and they were like, "Nah, we ain't gonna do that because this will come back and bite us in the butt." So that's when they being convicted by their own conscience. Your conscience comes from the acknowledgement of the law. See, if you don't know the law, you wouldn't even know. You'd have picked up a rock and still thrown it. But they knew the law because the law is a spirit, and it's supposed to build a conscience in you. Okay. So convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. So they just started leaving because they knew we guilty. We can't do that. All right. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. Okay. So now all the accusers left, and the woman sitting there, and he's right on the ground. Verse 10. When Jesus had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, now he's seeing a woman there just sitting there. He said unto her, woman, where are those thy accusers? Where's the people that's accusing you of this sin, that you should be stoned? Have no man condemned thee? What is he talking about? Have no man condemned thee? No, nobody executed the law because you're supposed to what? You're supposed to kill him. Once you find him in the act, you're supposed to throw the stone. He's saying nobody did it. She said, no, man, Lord, no, none of them are here. And Jesus said unto her, neither do I condemn thee, go and sin no more. And this is where everybody loses and say, oh, Christ is changing it up. He's breaking the law. He's not condemning her, and she clearly broke the law. Why can't he condemn her, beloved? Let me see if somebody caught it. Why can't he condemn her according to the law?
No witnesses. Oh, no, or the other accuser as well.
Also, what else? Why can't he condemn her according to law? You're right, though.
He wasn't there.
He wasn't there. What happened to people start just breaking people? Well, they left, so I'm just going to start taking it in my hands. He can't do that because he's still binded by the law. He can't just stone somebody. That's why he said, where's your accusers? The only people that can accuse you of adultery, they have to catch you in the act. They got to see it. Other than that, we can't just start killing people because of hearsay. So he said, I can't do nothing. So he said, neither do I condemn thee. But what did he say after that? Go and what? Sin no more. I'm not saying you righteous for what you did, or that you can be committing adultery and everything. He's saying, I can't condemn you according to law, but I'm going to give you some advice. Don't sin no more. Okay? So that's what it is. He wasn't destroying the law of Moses. He was actually upholding it and showing us how we're supposed to do it. Okay? All right. Okay, so that's the big, not a long one, but that's the big one with the woman caught in adultery. All right. He was not changing it and now establishing his own law. He was actually showing them how the law of Moses is supposed to work. Okay. All right. So that's it with that one. I'm going to show you something as well. All right. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 42. Isaiah chapter 42. And if anybody got anything to add, you know, like always, you can add it. All right. So Isaiah chapter 42, and we're going to go down to verse 21. Isaiah chapter 42. Matter of fact, I'm going to go up to verse 19. 18, I'm sorry. 42 and verse 18. Hear ye deaf, and look, ye blind, that ye may see. All right, you people that ain't hearing, this ain't talking about just a natural deaf person. Somebody that ain't understanding, saying, listen up, deaf. Look, ye blind. All right, I'm going to give you something. Who is blind but my servants, or deaf as my messengers that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as the Lord's servants? So you're talking about his people, the Pharisees and right scribes, right? They were our forefathers too. You know, take the good, the bad. But they were what? They were being impartial. All right. They should be able to see. You know what the law is saying, you ain't doing it. You blinding yourself. Okay. It says, verse 20, seeing many things, but thou observest not. You see some things, but you ain't observing. Opening the ears, but he heareth not. You trying to teach and show people things, but you ain't even taking your own advice. Verse 21, listen. The Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. Listen what he will do. He will magnify the law and make it honorable. Magnify something is what? Make it bigger, make it more than what it is, right? Make it more glorious and make it honorable. Not that it wasn't honorable before, but the servants have come and what? They're making it, they're messing it all up because they're not doing it how it is. The problem is not the law. It's the problem with the people that was enforcing it because they weren't doing it according to what it is. So when we look at the issue, it's not the law that's the issue. It was them trying to what? Finagle the law. Same thing you see sometimes in this society. You get these lawyers and everything, they're trying to what? Find loopholes and do all this stuff and wicked stuff through the law. But this law that God gave us, like Paul said, is holy, right? There's no issues with it. The fault was in us because we weren't doing what we're supposed to be doing with it, okay? And that's keeping it honorable and magnifying it, okay? Not destroying it, because remember, he didn't come to destroy it, but he's coming to what? We're going to see with the examples. He's magnifying it and he's making it honorable because they're dishonoring it through what they're doing, okay? Take you to another spot. All right, let's take you to another spot. Let's go to, what is it? Psalms 50, I believe it's Psalms 50. Psalms chapter 50. Psalms chapter 50. I'm going to show you some stuff with the law as well. So you get people just, they ain't doing nothing, they just speaking in and saying, well, I'm right because at least what I'm saying is right. See, God don't go with that. That's what people do. Nah, that ain't what God's saying. Well, I can still say the law and what is right. You ain't supposed to. All right. So this is Psalms, forgive me. Psalms chapter 50. Psalms chapter 50. All right. And verse 16. All right. Psalms 50 and verse 16. But unto the wicked, God saith, why hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? In other words, why are you speaking my laws, my properties? Why are you using this book? Right? Because what? We're gonna get to that. All right. So why are you declaring my statutes? Why you go over here using verses and all this stuff and you taking my covenant in my mouth? Then why are you doing that? Verse 17, because there's a question mark, right? Why? He's saying, seeing thou hatest instruction and casteth my words behind thee. Why are you trying to use this Bible and you ain't even trying to live the words that you see? He's saying, I don't want you opening your mouth because all you want to do is make it what? Dishonorable. People going to start equating it to you and what you see in the world. Got all these preachers saying all this stuff and they ain't even living the stuff they preaching and teaching. He said, the law says you shut your mouth. You ain't trying to do the covenants. You ain't trying to do this thing. I don't need your help. Like, I don't want you as an ambassador or, a preacher or a teacher for me. Okay. So seeing thou hatest instruction and cast my words behind thee, you're not even considering what my words saying. What was they doing, beloved? According to the law of Moses, you ought to stone her and bring in one party. You ain't trying to declare my statutes. You're trying to execute judgment wickedly. You hate my instructions because my instructions wasn't to bring the one party. It's to bring both of them. But you want to do what you want to do, and you want to throw my words back there. Verse 18. When thou sawest a thief, then thou consented with him, and has been partaker with adulterers. That's funny, beloved. So if somebody, a thief, is in many forms, you're trying to take something that ain't yours, right? So he's saying you're actually consenting with them. You're supposed to be against the thief, but you actually being buddy-buddy with the thieves. We see this all the time. But look at the second part. And has been partaker with adulterers. Beloved, if you caught them in the act and the law saying bringing both and you bring one, you had to be what? Consenting with the other one. Now, the text don't tell if it was a friend, if it was this, it don't go into those details. It doesn't matter because you're still consenting with it because you didn't bring both parties and you knew better. You see how the law still just cuts you? Because they know law. It ain't the point about they know the law. You have to execute it correctly. Okay. Verse 19, thou givest thy mouth to evil and thy tongue frameth deceit. What did they do, beloved? Tempting him. They're trying to tempt him. They're trying to find an accusation that he's breaking the law. What is that? Thy tongue frameth deceit. Got guile in there. Like you're trying to do righteous and trying to tell people how to do these commandments and things, and you over there being deceitful with it and try to condemn people that ain't even, properly being dealt right according to the law. All right. You give your mouth to evil. Why would you try to set somebody up for that? And this is something very important. They hated Christ more than they loved God. And you got to watch it. Some people motivation is very wicked. Some people don't love God, beloved, in the church. Some people, and we know some of our brothers and sisters, I ain't going to point them out specifically that we see it going around, right? But some of them hate a certain group of people more than they love God. And this is why blindness is happening to us. When we're going through this, it should be, I'm going to get this so I can tear this person down. This is what they do. Well, let's find something in the law. They're reading and trying to go to the law to catch somebody up, to condemn them. That's not how we're supposed to be getting these words of the commandments. If you want to try to condemn somebody through the law, the first person should be what? You. Lord, where am I falling short so that I can be what? A better servant for you. But that's not what they're doing. They're giving their mouth to evil. They know they're not ignorant. They know what they was doing was wrong, and they're still following through with it. All right. Verse 20. I guess we're good. Thou sittest and speakest against thy brother, and Christ was their brother. Thou slanderest thy own mother's son. All right. These things, so you're doing this to your own people, right? That's even a more wicked thing, right? Not loving your brother, right? Christ talked about that all the time. Verse 21, these things has thou done, and I kept silent. I seen what you was doing. See, people think they was getting away. Well, why did God do it? Because God, listen, he takes his time. He tells us through the scriptures, don't start thinking you good because I'm not executing judgment right away. That's what we think. You'll hear people all in this wickedness and thinking it's all right. You see the homeless say, oh, well, if God was really mad at it, he would do something about it. He ain't going to move on your time, but best believe you ain't escaping the judgment. He's a patient God, but he's going to get everything. That judgment's going to come on it, and nobody's going to be able to escape. All right. So don't get weary in that, beloved. He's going to get all right. But he says, I seen you doing it, and I kept silent. I seen you hating your brothers and stuff, and I kept silent. I didn't say it was right. I just kept silent on the judgment. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such a one as thyself. And because I kept silent and I wasn't whacking y'all and killing y'all here and there, y'all thought I was like y'all. Y'all thought I was consenting with evildoers. And this is what happened when you're in sin. You start to think God is like you. Well, he didn't do this. He ain't do this. So I guess I can do this. He's okay with this. Our God is never okay with that. And the scripture says he didn't give nobody a license to sin. Okay, but you start to think that. Listen what he says. But I will reprove thee. Oh, I'm going to correct you and set them in order before thine eyes. And we see what? When a true man of God comes, what he do? The Most High is putting that spirit on him and he's reproving them. What was Christ doing? Reproving them. All right, you don't have sin, go ahead and do it. And he did it right in front of their faces. Set them in order before thine eyes. All right. All right. That's it for there. All right. Do anybody got anything? Went through a lot. I told you that was a short one. So anybody have anything they needed to add with what's been said so far? All right. I'm going to give another spot or two, and then that will be it for this evening. Romans chapter 2. Romans chapter 2. All right. Let me see. Because this is a big point, and even Paul was dealing with it afterwards. All right. So we're going to start verse 1. This is Romans chapter 2 and verse 1. Therefore, thou art inexcusable. You don't have no excuse, O man, whosoever thou art that judges. For wherein thou judgest another, thou condemnest thyself. For thou that judgest doest the same thing. Very important. Sometimes go over people's head. So he's saying you're without excuse. Whosoever thou art that judges. Judging is not wrong. That we got scripture that's point at. You're supposed to judge things. All right. But listen what he's saying. He's giving you what he's talking about. For when thou judgest another, all right, right? Like the brother, they was judging that sister, and rightfully so if they had both parties, but they're doing it. He said what? When thou judgest another, thou condemnest thyself. How do I condemn myself when I'm judging somebody else? How do we condemn ourselves when we're judging somebody else? Maybe because you ain't doing something according to the law, but you're calling somebody else guilty for it. You're saying this person should be killed according to the law, right? But you didn't take the matter correctly according to the law. That's how you're condemning yourself. That's why they all left, because they knew that. Okay? For thou that judgest doest the same thing. It's hypocrisy. Okay? You try to destroy them and you're doing the exact same thing. Right? Verse 2, but we are sure that the judgment of God is according to truth against them which commit such things. We know that the judgment of God is according to truth. John 17:17, sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. Okay? That's why they grabbed the law of Moses. They got that part right, right? But it's supposed to be according to truth. Not just grabbing to say this is where you're guilty at, but you got to do it according to what? How the law tell you to operate it. All right? You can't miss that part. All right? Which against them which commit such things. Verse 3, and thinkest thou this, O man, that judgest them which do such things, and doest the same, that thou should escape the judgment of God. Just like we read in the New Testament. You think you're going to escape? You try to judge all them and find all the fault in all them and you doing this, and you not doing what you know to do. You think you're going to escape the judgment? And this is what people do, beloved. This is the same thing that's happened nowadays. Some people think if I can put point the finger and make sure the attention's on this person, it's going to that somehow make me justified and innocent and free. Mm-hmm. Not in God's eyes. Absolutely not. All right. We're going to go down and we're going to read this part and then we will be done. All right. Then we will be done. All right. We're going to jump down to verse 17. All right. Behold, thou art called a Jew and restest in the law and make thy boast of God. All right. So the Jews, we will what? We will rest in the law. No problem with resting. That's not an issue, resting in the law. And he says, and makest thy boast of God and knowest his will. So we're claiming that we know God, we know his will. And when you do have to understand the scriptures, you do start to understand his will. Okay. And approve the things that are more excellent. You know what? A more excellent way, because that's how the law works. Listen what they're saying, being instructed out of the law. So because you know the law, you know the will of God, you know the things that's approved by him, and you know the things that are more excellent. All right. Being instructed out of the law because you got the law. These are the oracles of God. Okay. But verse 19, and are confident that thou ourself are a guide of the blind, a light of them which are in darkness. And we're supposed to be that. We're supposed to be that light. That's when we were supposed to do the laws and when we're being instructed out of laws. That's a lifestyle, beloved. When you're doing that, you will be a light to the blind. Well, you'll basically be a guide to the blind, right? They can't see, so you're guiding them to God, right? And those that are in darkness, you're a light so that what? They can see you and come out of it, okay? Even with Christ in that example with adultery, she can see, wow, that was, he didn't do no wicked in that. Because he could just still stone me because I was guilty of adultery, but he didn't do that. He still did the right way, okay? Verse 20, an instructor of foolish, a teacher of babes, which has the form of knowledge and of the truth in the law. Okay. And this stuff is true. We're supposed to be instructors of the foolish being, people that don't know and stuff. A teacher of babes, people that just maybe not have that much knowledge yet. You're supposed to teach them as well. This is what you're supposed to be doing. It's not bad. Thou therefore which teaches another, teachest thou not thyself? Now he's bringing a point of this. Yeah, this is right. This is what you're supposed to be. But now he's saying, now you that's teaching another, don't you teach yourself? Thou that preaches a man should not steal. Listen, does thou steal? So he's not talking about them not observing the law. Paul is breaking down what? Hypocrisy. How are you putting a standard? And the standard is good if you get it from the scriptures, but you're putting that standard on there and you are guilty of that. You telling people thou should not steal and you over there stealing. Come on now. He's saying, how you gonna do that? Verse 22. Thou that sayest a man should not commit adultery. We shouldn't. Does thou commit adultery? The hypocrisy. Thou that abhorrest idols, does thou commit sacrilege? Right? We supposed to hate idols, but you over there worshiping an idol. That ain't how it goes. Thou that makest thy boast of the law, listen, through breaking the law, dishonors thou God. This is why we go to Isaiah. It says what? To make it honorable, right? You making a boast of the law, but you breaking the law to do it. You try to observe the law that's saying, clear adultery out of the land, but you what? You breaking it. You trying to do it unrighteously. That's not how it goes. So the problem wasn't the law on what they were doing, is that you not observed it and doing it, exercising it correctly, beloved. Okay? So that makes that boast of law through breaking the law, dishonor of God. That's how you dishonor God, because you're not following through how it says to be done. For the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, as it is written. Okay? So this is already written before. But they're getting this blasphemy through you. They're getting a misunderstanding of God's laws and commandments because of your actions. But if you were doing it right, like Christ was doing it, they wouldn't be having this blasphemy. But they're getting taught the wrong thing. And now they're doing what? They're bringing the law of God. This law of God is supposed to be good and perfect. Came from our perfect God. But now they think it's all messy and bad because what? The people that's over there opening their mouth with it are being the biggest hypocrite, showing hypocrisy and being hypocrites, right? So, beloved, I'll end it there. We got any questions or anything with that? This will be the time or comments. You can bring out this time. Shalom.